lot of things as a home care clinician we do that people may not realize.
As a speech pathologist, I don't get to just say, oh, you know what, that's not my set of skills. Every time we walk into a patient's home, we have to be every single discipline for that person.
Sometimes in order for us to even access the home, we have to assist with taking out the garbage.
I had a patient, she was not able to get out of the seat on her own. I'm not usually someone who does toileting, but she needed to go.
I was taking care of a patient in a homeless shelter. I crawled under the bed to find a live mouse on a sticky trap and removed it.
I could see that there was like dirt, so I went and looked closer, and it was thousands of casings of dead bed bugs.
I've helped people rearrange rooms, moving furniture to try to make things more accessible.
During COVID, I had a patient who wasn't able to get out of her house, and I brought her some groceries. I brought her toilet paper because it was so hard to get.
Prepare meals for patients when they haven't had enough to eat.
I've walked to a patient's home in the middle of a snowstorm to administer insulin, and I've also shoveled the walkway of a patient's home so that I could get in to take care of that patient. If you've ever had a home care clinician in your life, you know how far they go to make sure you're safe and comfortable in your home. We're asking you to come out and support us tomorrow at our rally to wrap up our strike. We're still fighting. We don't have a contract. We miss our patients. We love our patients. Please come support us tomorrow.
I know yesterday Judy talked about the cookie. The cookie is a big insult to us. Every time we walk into a patient's home, we are the PT, we are the OT, we are the nurse, we are the social work, we are the speech pathologist.
We're doing everything. We're managing everything.
And the way they treat us is just disrespectful.
They don't care about the patients. Only that admission coming in and getting more money. That's what matters to them.
Our clinicians are spread too thin because they have 40 patients or more in a 40-hour work week. That's not something that they can safely manage.
They weaponize our compassion because they know that we care about the patients.
You just kind of put your heart and soul into it, and then you get home and you have to do your notes.
So I'm paid for 7 hours, but I work till 8 o'clock every night. It's just, you cannot take good care of your patients when you have that many.
And welcome back, Solidarity Report listeners. My name is Joshua Town. I am a rank and file letter carrier, paying dues to the National Association of Letter Carriers, Branch 55 out of Pawtucket, Rhode Island. And today I have my co-host, Maddie B from Branch 12. Light it up, Maddie.
Thank you, Josh. My name is Matthew Bocage. I am also a rank and file letter carrier paying dues to the NALC out of Branch 12 in Worcester, Massachusetts. And today we have a extremely important, awesome guest, Shannon Viera. Shannon, introduce yourself.
I'm Shannon Viera. I am a nurse with Mass General Brigham Home Care, and I am the chair of our new bargaining committee looking for our first contract.
Looking for their first contract. That is wild. We're talking about organizing. We're talking about grassroots movement, grassroots unionism right here. So if you love stories like this, make sure you like and subscribe to our content and share it with a friend, because solidarity is putting your friends up on things they may not know. And that being said, remember that all guests on the Solidarity Report, including Matthew and I, the hosts, are individual union members speaking in a personal capacity, and their views are inherently their own and do not represent any entity that is spoken on this program. Well, what has it been like, the fight for a first contract, Shannon?
It's long and it's tiring, but you know, we keep showing up every day. We organized back in June of 2024. We had started our organizing campaign in February of 2024. So it's been a long time of just kind of constant meetings and, you know, organizing and pushing forward.
I could feel that. And then you guys voted to become a union. Now, what did that look like? What was the vote?
So that was apparently, according to the organizer that we worked with at the MNA, we were unlike any other group. We were basically set fire to the organization. We met for the first time on February 14th. It was Valentine's Day. The organizer was expecting about 6 or 7 people, and over 100 showed up either virtually or in person.
Wow.
And then we proceeded to organize and vote in our union 4.5 months later with a resounding victory of, I think, 80 something percent. And that was 450-ish clinicians from the New Hampshire border out to like the 495 belt and down to Plymouth. So if you don't do home care, you wouldn't really understand, but that's like really impressive because we work kind of siloed. We're by ourselves in the field. We see our patients, but we don't see our colleagues almost ever. And after COVID, we stopped having in-person meetings. So even then, we're even more distant from each other than we used to be. So it just showed how desperately we needed a union and we needed to support each other.
Now, is this only nurses unionizing, or are there other different
Professions.
professions or crafts?
Yeah, so we in home care we call them disciplines, but it's all the same. So it's nurses, physical therapists, occupational therapists, speech language pathologists, social workers, and a dietitian.
Wow. And are you guys under the same umbrella under MNA? Are you guys kind of organizing together but separately?
Nope, we're all in the same unit. So we have our bargaining committee is made up of 4 nurses, 3 PTs, an OT, and a speech therapist. So we're all at the table together side by side.
Hey, Maddie, thinking about us, that's kind of like if, mail handlers and clerks and rural carriers and city carriers all kind of, bargain together. What a strange concept.
What a novel concept that was.
Is that not how you guys do it?
No, we have 4 different distinct unions. We have city carriers. We are paid hourly. We have rural carriers. They get paid pretty much by the route is what it seems like. You have clerks. They're paid hourly, but they like sort mail, and mail handlers are the ones that move big bulks of mail from facility to facility and within on and off transport trucks. Those are the 4 major collective bargaining units that we have within the Postal Service. So yeah, I mean, and we're all as far as I'm concerned, we're all on different timelines for our contracts.
We sure are.
Which is wild. But yeah, no, that's such a novel idea. Now, being different crafts, can that cause some friction, or do you believe that helps to breathe some solidarity within your different units, I guess? Because you guys have several different areas. You guys are all over like the Mass and northern Mass New Hampshire border there.
Yeah. I think it's a double-edged sword. There are times where it creates tension and friction within the unit because we each, we are each individually really important to the patient, but we all practice differently and have different challenges that we face. So that can be it could be a source of challenge within the committee and the greater membership. But I also think that it's better that we're all together so that management can't just walk over a smaller group of us, which is what they would happily do.
Yes, I agree with that. And I just find that that's crazy that you guys still have not had a first contract in, what has that been, almost 2 years, it seems like? Or no, you said 2024, right?
Yeah, we voted in 2024 and we went to the table in March of 2025. So it's been over a year of negotiating. I think we've had 30 sessions at this point.
Wow. That being said, what actions have you taken besides the 7-day strike?
We had an informational picket in front of Mass General Hospital back in March, and then we had our strike last week. We concluded our 7-day strike.
And what was that like being on that 7-day strike? What was the feeling within the membership and also within yourself? How did you feel about that?
I was really nervous going into it. I did not expect Mass General Brigham to allow us to strike. I thought for certain that they would eventually back down and meet us somewhere in the middle, because they're not even coming to the middle at this point. They're like very much at their starting line. They have never had a nurse strike in the Mass General Brigham system before. So this was a first on many levels. I was really nervous leading up to it. Once we were out there, I actually found it incredibly empowering. One of the best things that could have happened to us, to be honest, because we were able to meet each other and stand side by side and build relationships that weren't already there and present. So it's definitely made us a stronger unit, whether they like that or not.
Well, you got to think about it too, where you guys don't work on inpatient, you work inside the house. So that's kind of like a one-on-one care. And it must be really tough to do like meetings, like when you go over caseload or when you go over a patient's chart and relaying the information or something that you might have caught that PT might be able to handle, or this might be kind of fit in under the occupational therapy lens, or even like if it's something to do with swallowing and choking, which has to do with speech.
Yep.
Like that must be hard to communicate those aspects being in that kind of realm. How do you guys communicate those things for patients?
They want us to communicate everything in the patient's chart. So we send something called an in-basket. Some of us have relationships on our teams with, our colleagues, and they're able to pick up the phone and call. But the other issue with home care is that there's a really high turnover. So, you might have worked with so-and-so for the past year, but they're gone and you don't know who's filling in for them anymore, or it's a traveler who's got a contract for a short period of time. So it does make it a little bit challenging to communicate, but for the most part, it's done electronically. There's no like personal aspect to it, unfortunately. So that's why the strike was so great, because we got to like meet each other in person, sometimes for the first time. And, we'd be walking the picket line and I'd be like, oh, do you know so-and-so? You guys are on the same team. And they'd be like, oh, I know your name, but I've never met you before. So it was really empowering to create those relationships.
Yeah, I feel like that would really build camaraderie and be able to do those things. Now, as a first time union going into a first contract, how do you guys meet like for that? How did you guys get your list of demands, especially being different crafts and different disciplines?
Yeah. So to start, we organized because management changed our working conditions for everybody. So that was really uniting. We operated on what we called a point system. Basically, it gave each visit an assigned amount of like productivity level. So if you had a new patient you were admitting for services, that was a 2-point visit. Whereas like a patient you've seen a bunch of times and they're a revisit, that's a 1-point visit. Management took that away and said, nope, all visits are equal, which they are most certainly not. And that from there, we were all, that we were struggling. It's, the workload is not something you can accomplish in an 8-hour day when there's no like weight to those visits. So that really united us and allowed us to move forward as a group. Just from that, but there's a lot of the same issues across the board. The productivity or the weight system being one. We're all grossly underpaid, unfortunately, especially compared to our colleagues in Mass General Brigham hospitals. So there's that. We have a step scale for the nursing, which says every year you get a raise because you become more qualified, right? But in PT, they don't have that, or OT, they don't have that. So they have newer clinicians coming in with less experience getting paid more than other clinicians who have been here for 20 or 25 years. So there's a lot of disparity in the pay issues. And then caseload limits affect all of us. And that's one of the big things that we were pushing for is we have, when you're a case manager, you're assigned kind of to keep track of so many patients, and you see them usually once or twice a week or maybe more. And when you have, like Karen mentioned in the video earlier, when you have 40 patients on your caseload, but you work a 40-hour week, that is not doable. You can't, that math doesn't math, so to speak. You can't see 40 patients in 40 hours. There's just no way to make it work. So that becomes a challenge. So that's a uniting factor for all of us as well, as we need caseload limits, because it comes down to safe patient care.
Now, you mentioned that there was the point system. So does this remove data that you used when assessing patients?
Somewhat, yeah. There are certain visits that take longer, whether it's a patient who has an IV that you need to, change the dressing and get labs and bring them to the lab, or they have a wound vac, or maybe an OT who's showering a patient for the first time and setting up all their equipment. So yes, it definitely removed a lot of data. And the argument for management is, well, it's the industry trend. And that's all well and good that that's the industry trend, but you also like to think of yourself as the trendsetter. So maybe don't hop on that train,
And what you guys do, you're taking care of people in their home, like in their environment. So you know more about these people than anyone else. This is intimate. Like, it's different than being in a hospital where, I know for a fact, I have lots of family that have been nurses in hospital, right? Like, people lie, they lie to their doctors, they lie to their nurses. There's no lying to you. You're right.
It's really hard to lie when the nurse can see what food is on your table that you're not supposed to be eating,
Right. So the data that you have is the most important data. So the fact that they would take that away that just blew my mind. Like, I'm the wheels are turning. I'm like, wait, that makes absolutely no sense whatsoever.
I mean, that's an occupational therapist's dream. You're in the environment in which they are doing the occupations. Now, if you look at things, if you listen to a couple of our podcasts, you'll realize I always bring up the 8, 8, and 8. 8 hours of work, 8 hours of rest, and 8 hours for what we will. And I love that because it comes through an occupational therapy lens of the 8 hours of what we will can be divided up into ADLs, activities of daily living, IADLs, and all the different things that we do in the what we will aspect of it. That's what we control, and you kind of look at it as just human beings, how do we budget our time? And when you're in a situation like they are, where they're not in a place, but they're going patient to patient, you got to think about it's like, Maddie, when we get overtime, you're going from route to route. They're going from house to house. Now, my question is, do they consider that travel time?
They really don't. It's only based on how many visits you do a day, which is part of what we're negotiating for. We want to have travel time taken into account, because sometimes you have a nurse who's in Boston and it might take, 40 minutes to go a mile because traffic and parking is so challenging. But then we also have teams that are so spread out. You might be going 40 miles. So you might be, driving because it's a long way to go. So that is not taken into account right now. And it's definitely needed, because it would definitely, if you look at your 8, 8, and 8 scenario, the clinicians in home care are working well over 8 hours, but only being paid for 8 hours. And then their free time is being used to do their documentation to get their notes done so that their license isn't at risk. So it's discouraging that management doesn't want to change anything, because it's a quality of life issue, and that's why we can't retain staff. People leave. I have great nurses come in that I work with, and under a year, and they're saying, peace out, I can't do this anymore.
I mean, we get people in our place and they realize quick whether they can handle the job or not. And it's wild that working conditions as a whole between different occupations, different crafts, different industries are all starting to say, that 8 hours of work is starting to creep into my either free time or my rest time. And you can't really find that as through an occupational lens would be that leisure time. Your work time is now coming into your leisure or your rest time, and you don't have that what you would call occupational balance.
Yep.
It's really, really wild to see that and live it. Matt will tell you, I was doing 60s commuting 45 minutes one way, and your life is just work. It's hard to shut it off. I can only imagine.
And then the compensation, I mean, the cost of living in Massachusetts is 50% higher than the rest of the country. And if I'm not mistaken, MGB is one of the highest grossing hospitals in the country right there, that organization as a whole. So the money is there. They just don't want to pay it, which we do a lot of interviews, and this seems to be a recurring theme here. The working class.
I mean, the CEO has to make all the money, Matt. Why are we going to pay the nurse that treats the patient, that saves the patient's life? Why are we going to pay the PT who's getting the patient up and moving and getting up and down those stairs? Why are we going to pay the occupational therapist to get that person living life to its fullest? Why are we going to pay the speech pathologist or the speech therapist to be able to get that person to drink out of a straw, drink out of a cup, or chew and swallow and form a real bolus? Like, why are we paying those people? The CEO is important here. If you
One of the doctors that I've worked with had a famous line where he's like, MGB is a venture capital fund with a hospital. And I think that that's really well said, because, what nonprofit do you know that has 2.4 billion in revenue, like in profit? Like, that's just mind blowing to be a nonprofit with that much profit.
It's wild. And you kind of brought up the Mass Women and Brigham's a little bit, and we wanted to play a clip because I feel like it kind of overshadowed what's going on with you guys. However, from this clip, we kind of see that you guys build a little bit of solidarity on this clip, and I really would like Matt to put that up real fast.
Sure, give me one moment, guys.
We want to let you know, MGB, that we're out here for our patients.
We know that you guys are trying to bust up our union, but it ain't gonna happen.
We're forced out on strike because of billionaires making decisions.
It's infuriating.
They're not really interested in the patients at the bedside. They're interested in their corporate billions.
It's tough that we have to do this to get recognized when we are here living paycheck to paycheck. You're living a life of luxury.
You're giving yourselves millions of dollars. I can't even get equipment.
This is the way you treat us.
You have blood on your hands. I hope it was worth it.
They're underestimating us.
We know our value.
Compared to what you guys get, we're really not asking for much.
We are making the money so you can live that way.
Yeah. If this doesn't get your attention, what will?
The disrespect has been it's just been too much.
They pay their executives millions of dollars. And Levansky makes $8.6 million a year. They pay us nothing. It's the patients that are being hurt. It's the nurses that are being hurt. I want it to be about my patients and not about numbers.
The power of the people and the power of unions and the power of the working class will prevail. And together we are stronger than they are. So
I really love that because she ends it with my line typically that I like to close out with is together we are stronger. And that resonates with me because I feel like if we all work together, we can all make little gains, and little gains will improve our lives within the margins.
Yeah, agreed. It's interesting because over the past 2 years, we've seen a lot of unions pop up through MGB. So they're, home care unionized, home hospital unionized, the occupational health nurses unionized, the residents and interns got their first contract, and the primary care doctors unionized. And most recently, the advanced practitioners at the cancer center, the nurse practitioners and the PAs, they just unionized. So it's really interesting time for us to build solidarity across all of our different departments, because there's so much need, obviously, if there's this many unions popping up within a healthcare system.
Oh, your job, it's arguably the most important job that there is, like the most human job that there is. Care, like that's what sets us apart, right? Is our empathy. Right.
Yeah.
It is the most empathetic job you can have. And I feel like they take advantage of that. They definitely take advantage of the fact that you are dedicating your life. You punch in, you punch out, and then some, right? But that's all dedicated to caring for other people. Like their smear campaigns are like, oh, they're just greedy. It's like, how can you say that they're greedy when they dedicate their entire lives to taking care of other people? That is the most nonsensical argument I have ever heard in my life. It is so utterly ridiculous.
There was something I said during our organizing campaign that really resonated with a lot of my colleagues, which is that they weaponized our compassion, right? Because they're going to dump that extra patient on us because they know we care. So we're going to go do the visit, even though that means we're missing our kid's softball game, or, we're not getting to walk our dog, or we can't make dinner. Like they know we're going to go above and beyond because we care about our patients. And that was, I think, part of the reason it was important for us to strike, so that they could see what it looks like when we're not there to go above and beyond.
Yeah, I feel like the only way labor wins is to withhold their labor, which is really hard for us, particularly because we can't really, if we withhold our labor, it then becomes a legal issue, a legal battle. And for us, like we try to build as much as we can through public support. You put pressure on the politicians, which will put pressure on the post office to then move in the correctest direction, whether it's paying letter carriers or clerks or mail handlers or rural carriers more, or whether it's hiring the correct staff and not running really lean. I feel like that's another common thing that we read up on is that these corporations, these big businesses, they run really lean to the point where you're messing with disaster. Yeah. You're putting people in bad predicaments to the point where, once again, you're looking at the 8 and 8. You might be off shift. Never mind the notes and all the extra stuff you have to do, but can you mentally check out?
Right. Yeah. I think that I had read that during COVID, healthcare realized just how far they can push healthcare workers. And since then, it hasn't gone back to what it was. So at this point, I think there's a term, I don't know if you've seen it, called moral injury, which is essentially a healthcare worker knowing that they should and could be providing better care, but they're unable to because they're just spread so thin. So it's driving people out of the field.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't heard that term, but that does make sense. I know my first real labor dispute, and me really starting to kind of see things for what they are, was actually the St. Vincent nurses strike in 2021. And that really got me kind of seeing things. And then I had some personal things happen in my family, and we really got to see how the whole unit works together, especially in like critical care situations and all that. And if they're not all interconnected, which COVID did do a lot to disconnect different disciplines, when they're not all interconnected, the system doesn't work best for the patient or the client.
Yeah.
And that's one of those reasons I really think it's important for you guys to get those big wins and that first contract. Now, since the strike, have they been coming back to the table, or are they still kind of shoo-shooing you?
So we go back to the table with them tomorrow. It will be our first session since the strike. They went back to the table with the Brigham today, and they did not change their offer at all. So they made 0 changes after their 1-day strike and their 4-day lockout. We were told that they are prepared for a much longer strike, so maybe they're hedging their bets.
Wow.
And we were just talking about this public support, Josh, right? I don't think people realize just how much support nurses have. I can't name one person who is not supportive of our nurses. I know if I can get a break from my 12-hour day, 6-day a week, I'll be out there with you guys. Like this is really important that we share these stories, we talk about this stuff and get it disseminated anywhere we can. And I really quickly, you guys, one moment, I just want to share, y'all have a Facebook. Please follow facebook.com/Mass Nurses. You can find out how to help, learn more, as well as their TikTok, which is awesome. Like I said, your social media person is phenomenal.
That's Hannah.
Hannah, you rule.
Yes, shout out to Hannah. Give her multiple thumbs up on that one. Yeah, I mean, and that's half the battle. I feel like you see a lot of unions starting to build, and then you have unions that are like ours that are just old school. And it's like we're trying to pull them out and realize that you got to get this information out. If you can get the public involvement in these things, you start to build another lever of pressure. You can put more pressure onto it. See, you guys can withhold your labor. We can't. So it's important for us to let the public know the issues that we have. If you don't let the public know, we don't have, like, yeah, we have a political fund. We have these things to, help build legislation and behoove, all the different crafts within the Postal Service. But with the withholding of labor is one of the key actions that a union can do and a workforce can do. And between you guys and the Mass Brigham, how was the community support? Was it like 95% of the staff out there on the line, or what did you see a lot of other different community, whether they're groups or say just patients or individuals?
Yeah, we had a ton of support. I picketed one day at the Brigham with my husband because he's actually a nurse at the Brigham. So we were both out on strike at the same time. So I was at the Brigham one day. I saw patients standing in their hospital gowns at the entrance, like cheering people on. But for our strike, we had a ton of local elected officials come by. We had Congresswoman Kathleen Clark come by. We picketed in Somerville, which is where the headquarters for Mass General Brigham is. And Somerville is a union town. So we got so much support from them. They invited us out to their city council meeting and passed a unanimous resolution demanding MGB settle a fair contract with us. Every single one of their city councilors was out on the picket line with us, often more than once. We had local, Senator Lydia Edwards was there. A whole bunch of state reps came by. We had some patients come by and stand and hold signs with us. A lot of other unions. We had SEIU and the Teamsters were out to support us. We had Mass Teachers Association. Like we felt the love and support from our, brothers and sisters who are holding the line.
See, that's beautiful. That's what it's all about. And that being said, when you think about all the community support and all the stuff that you guys do, now I want to kind of delve in a little personal for you per se. You're now chairing this. You're doing all these things for the union. That must cut into your personal time even more.
Yeah, it's been a little bit busy.
It sounds, and then on top of it, as you said, your husband works for the other hospital. What was that like, having two strikes almost simultaneously going on?
Fortunately, he is a hard worker and was able to kind of prepare ahead of time for the loss of income for both of us. But it was hectic and it was exhausting. I think more so for me because I had to be out every day. And our strike was longer, but it was emotionally and physically exhausting and draining. And then, we've got 3 kids that we're, dealing with. And so life is busy all around, but I would love to get a contract wrapped up so we can kind of put this to rest for a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, that would definitely put a bow on it for certain.
Yeah.
And that being said, we're going to kind of slide into our final takeaways right here, because I feel like there's still so much to be explored, but so much that's left on the table. I definitely would love to have you come back in when that contract gets finalized, because it has to. They have to. At this point, you're not going to keep people if you don't have any type of paperwork in place to show the respect, show the dignity, show that we care about making sure you're paid correctly, making sure that we take into account the travel time. You got to make sure that all these things are intertwined so you can keep good workers. I feel like Matt and I talk about this all the time with the people that we bring into the post office. If you start them off and you treat them not good, there's going to be other options on the table. There's options, and it starts with those working conditions. So Matt, what's your final takeaway from this conversation?
Oh, it's a really good question, Josh. For me, it's just too much greed. I believe you said $2 billion in net gains. $2 billion.
With a B.
With a B.
Don't forget that 0.4, because that's a lot of money. 2.4.
$4 billion net margin. The top 14 executives made around $36 million, I believe. So the money is there. They have the money there. They're just not prioritizing it. They're choosing power over care, which is what they're in the business of. They're in the business of care. I know this is a business, but do a few people at the top really need to suck up all that money when they're not the ones doing the work, the care? That's my takeaway. This can be solved like that.
Yeah, it really could be. It's a choice. And I think that they're trying to set the tone for all the contracts that are going to come behind us with those new unions that we mentioned. But they really need to start putting their patients over profits, because if they want to be the best, like they claim to be, and national leader, they need to start putting the patients over the dollar signs, because that's really where you start to lose people.
World-class care deserves world-class wages.
Yes, for certain. So, Shannon, I'm going to ask you what your final takeaway is, and also if there's anything that you want to plug and let us know how to follow you, the best way to follow your union, whether it's you, whether it's just the Nurses Association in general. What's the best way to follow you, and what's your final takeaway?
So my final takeaway is that we're in it for the long haul. We're not going to accept anything that is subpar, because there's literally no trust left between, the members and management. They have obliterated any trust that was there. So we just keep going and we push forward, and I'm not entirely sure what that looks like, but they're going to lose good staff, because people have been saying, like, I'm hanging on for a contract. And now that we've had our strike, I think people are going to say it's time to go. We're not getting anywhere. So it's unfortunate. To follow us, I think the Mass Nurse Association page and socials is probably the best. We don't have one specific for home care at this point in time. We just can't juggle anything else. So maybe someday.
No, but you know what? The best part is you do have a great social media person. Make sure you follow that TikTok. That TikTok is fire. So
Yeah,
for
she's
all our
doing a great job.
yes, for all our young listeners, remember, like and subscribe to us. We can keep you somewhat in the loop, but for the details, you got to follow their TikTok. I'm telling you, that's the spot. And when I look at it, my final takeaway is it's beautiful. It's beautiful seeing so many different perspectives, not just walks of life. Everyone has a different walk of life, a different perspective. But now you're looking at disciplines and how they treat patients. As I said before, a nurse is going to get you healed from sick to healthy. A PT is going to get you up and moving. An OT is going to make sure you can live life to the fullest. That means taking care of yourself, your self-care, and changing and making sure you're eating. And that's when they pass it all over to speech to make sure you can chew, swallow, talk. And all those things coming together to just fight for a contract. And normally I say together we are stronger, but today I'm saying together we will win.